Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So this video is about why society is being unreasonable, while I'm being reasonable. So first of all, let's talk about sensitivity, right? So if you're sensitive to injustice, you're not necessarily more of a risk or more of a threat to society than other people. Okay. So I would describe myself as a sort of a falcon mixed with the sun, mixed with a leopard, mixed with a lion. But when it comes to kind of violence, right, it perhaps is easier to describe myself as a leopard, where I'm not a knucklehead. If someone's staring at me, I'm not going to start a fight with them. Okay. I'm not some kind of loose cannon or some kind of fool. But I'm also more sensitive to injustice, right? A leopard will kill when it's necessary, when it's logical. Okay? So there's that. And I have a very refined martial arts code. I don't go through life saying, hey, this person pisses me off, or this politician or this rich person. I don't go through life like that. A lot of people make me angry, but I have no intention to kill anybody. But there are a lot of people out there who are more like a bulldog or a pit bull. They're very aggressive, right? An aggressive bulldog or an aggressive pit bull. And they're knuckleheads. And they're loose cannons. And for the most part, I go through life, I maneuver around them. I don't clash with them. And when I come across them, they tend to know that I'm a serious person, what have you. And there tends to be a certain respect for me. So let's talk about the part of the atmosphere in this country that is deadly, right? So some gang members are more deadly than others. If you go to, the penitentiary, some prison gang members, some inmates are more deadly than others, right? And some of the COs there have a certain way about them, right? Maybe they're a pagan that worships the devil. Maybe they're this, maybe they're that. Maybe they're former military. They have a certain deadly way about them. It's in their presence. It's in the atmosphere. So if you go to the big cities, right? New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, you'd expect to see police officers who have a sort of deadly way about them, right? They might be professional, deadly at the same time. Okay. The government, right? The big pharmaceutical companies, in a different way, they have a sort of deadly way about them. There's specifics, right? There's kind of categories, and there's individuals, there's commonalities, what have you. So in society, there's this sort of deadliness that is there. And why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this because there's a lot of rape that's going on here. Unforgivable, unbelievable rape. It's part of the reason why the government might try to warn me subtly or otherwise, and I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. For many reasons. God put me here to stand firm. I know a lot of people don't like the fact that I refuse to give my blessing to, people doing the wrong thing, right? And the whole world is doing the wrong thing. Every nation, every culture, except for universal pinpoint and moral precision, which is my personal culture. It's a philosophy. It's an ideology. It's the idea of scrambling to be morally precise to the best of one's ability. And when I express it in martial arts or speech, the idea is focused moral intensity. When I'm reviewing information in different states of mind, I might be very calm. I might be angry. I might be thrown off from covert drugging and fuming. I might be this or might be that, might be intensely angry. And I've noticed that when I think the best, it tends to be in a sort of martial art, deadly state of mind, which is not a reckless state of mind. For example, I saw someone I don't like in that state of mind. When I'm reviewing information that pertains to that person, I might, snap out of my zone and see that person and be like, okay, I'm kind of taken off guard or something, right? But I don't turn around and want to hurt that person. So one of the main characteristics that I have is discipline. It's wise and insightful. I look at situations and I analyze them again and again and again. In fact, for the last 30 years, I've been talking about things related to social issues like the economy, the oppression that takes place, disenfranchised individuals, what they go through for 30 years, since I was 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, right? So probably since I was about 14 years old, I've been actively engaged in internet conversations about these issues. 3 decades. And same thing with martial arts. Since I was 16 years old, I've done martial arts, and they kind of crippled me and persecuted me and kept me from doing it for quite some time now. And I'm partially crippled. But that mentality, that discipline remains. Now, So when we look at the failures of society, the frats, the churches, okay, the synagogues, really. I'm sure to some degree the mosques, so I haven't looked into that a lot. If you want, you can put some information in the comments. I have a lot to do, so I can't look up stuff all day, every day. In fact, today I just looked up maybe 4 or 5 things earlier. Okay, I look up lots and lots of stuff, right? And I watched lots of videos. I just got done watching a Jordan Peterson video about his vision for America, in a sense, is what it's for the West, and in his arguments pertaining to socialism and how he doesn't like it and he oversimplifies it, but he kind of speaks in a sort of coded way, which is the kind of norm these days in politics. And I don't like it. I speak in a very direct way, very blunt way, and I don't care much for being politically correct. I give it straight. So as we look at this situation, the spirit, the principles, right? The dominant principle, the prevailing tendency, the dominant characteristic of the West is that they're going to kill anybody and everyone who gets in their way. And they intend to keep being sexually immoral. Now, do I think I can wave my hands and lock them all up, all the ones who are leading the charge, and then work with the rest of them? No. Do I think the answer is to go on the rampage or something? No. However, if somebody is targeted and they're abused daily, do I think that, that it's wrong for them to take on people who are persecuting them, even if they resort to violence? No. Now again, you have to make the distinction here. If you're not in the divine, or if you're not obeying God through me, you're not going to go to heaven. But it's not going to be held against you if you're targeted by people who are sexually harassing you, who are fuming you and poisoning you, who are harming you little by little over time, so that rapists can have the upper hand and threaten people using various things, gangs, what have you, right? FBI, whatever agencies, whatever groups, okay? And the military and so on and so forth, and they're threatening you, and they're threatening you, and they're abusing you, and they're fuming you, and they're sexually harassing you, and they're threatening your family. And they're hurting your family. If you then go out and find somebody who looks like a high-value target and take them on, I'm not going to hold that against you. If it's against the law, it's against the law. But God and I aren't going to hold that against you. That's a decision you have to make as hopefully an adult, right? As a man or a woman. That's a decision you have to make for yourself. Okay, if you're going to be outside the divine order and you are adamant about being outside the divine order, you have to decide that. Okay, and because of the situation, because of this, because of that, I'm not going to go more into detail about that. Again, I'm not a terrorist. I'm not a violent person. I'm somebody who's concerned with justice. Isaiah 16:5, I seek and speed the cause of justice and righteousness. And so, when I look at the crime rate, when I look at the violence going on, it's clear that it's a system of violence. And I don't agree with Jordan Peterson when he says that making adjustments is risky, and he suggests that you shouldn't make adjustments at all, that you should kind of work it from the inside. No, the inside of the structure of the West and every nation on this planet is evil. They are evil. They are sadistic. They're pedo-sadists in the fact that they want everyone to act like a child and give up their rights and just do what they're told, like some teacher's pet or something, and to be in submission, which includes sexual submission, abusing secretaries, Boy Scouts, choir boys, the new guys at frats, and new girls in sororities, plotting behind the scenes. This is part of how it goes down, Just like with gangs in the streets in popular culture, there's a lot of plotting. Like this recent raid of these Serenials in California, MacArthur Park, 18th Street. What happened was they were running a lot of conspiracies at once, right? Whatever pimping they're doing, whatever human trafficking, I don't know, but I'm sure that they dabble in that. A lot of these gangs do. But there was drugs, right? And there was storefronts, and there was a complex, and a fairly well thought out drug distribution plan that relied on the government not zooming in on them. So there's a bunch of things like that out there. And what they're relying on is the government doesn't single them out, right? And so it is with human trafficking in general, with sexual coercion, with groups of sexual coercion, right? Which is, your established institutions are institutions of sexual control, right? The word rapist is like the word racist for a reason. Look at the history of the Klan, look at the history of the abuse of authority, what have you, the political abuse of psychiatry, what have you. We see that these things are connected. They work the angles on you to try to get you to fall in line with their pecking order, aka their picking order, and it refers to rape And whether you pick the king of darkness or the king of light, right? They want you to pick the king of darkness because it's that darkness. The spirit of the world is that deadly rape cult, dark spirit. And I have no criminal record, no violent criminal history. Okay? When it comes to a criminal record, I'm not a criminal, not a career criminal, not even a criminal. And I'm not some crazy person. Many people notice this too. They talk about the intense environment in Detroit or Los Angeles or the penitentiary, San Quentin, Rikers Island, you name it. These things are not imaginary. They are basically tangible and observable ideas. The spirit of violence, the spirit of ill intent, the spirit of maliciousness, the spirit of toxicity, the spirit of having a harmful intent. These are dominant characteristics of the spirit of the West. And to try to preserve that is insane. And so many people suffer, including poor whites and Jews, middle-class whites and Jews. People, all these people are getting beat by their husbands, okay? And they don't always report them because their husband has a nice job and they don't want them to lose their job or this or that. Okay, there's a lot going on here. And, I can't stress enough that I'm reasonable and I'm disciplined and I'm wise and I'm insightful. And I have to put justice before keeping the peace. I have to put righteousness before, being politically correct or making everyone happy or making everyone feel safe. But I can say with certainty, if people listen to me, if they rally to me, the crime rates around the nations will certainly drop. There's no way it wouldn't. Because I understand the underlying cause, the root cause of crime and the root causes. My logic is sound. They have no viable counterargument. Okay, so I'm way over time. We'll have to make this a series or something. Thank you.